Today we will be discussing about the Palaeogene. There are two aspects to be discussed about the Palaeogene in this lecture. The first is the Palaeogene rocks and the distribution in India, and then the life and some idea about the paleogeography of the Palaeogene worldwide. So, that will be considered in the second part of the lecture. The physiographic features of India, it took final shape during Cenozoic era. The Paleocene period began with the outburst of the lava flow, mainly cover the southern part of the Indian Craton. A marine transgression on the western, northern and eastern flanks and with tectonic instability in the Tethyan Himalayan arc. Let us start with the Paleocene. At the end of the Maastrichtian means the late Cretaceous, a major regression occurred which produced an unconformity. Unconformity means a time gap that extends at many places into lower Eocene, but in Assam, South India and Tibet, which was short lived and soon followed by a transgression in the early Paleocene. Early Paleocene is sometimes also called as Danyan. It marks the first tertiary transgression in the Indian subcontinent. It was followed by a regression before the main late Paleocene Ranikot transgression began. During the late Paleocene, the sea transgressed in the northwestern part of the subcontinent into Himalayas, Tibet, Assam, Burma and also in South India. At the same time, an arm of the sea from Singh covered areas in Rajasthan, Kutch and Cambay region up to Surat Bharuch in the western Indian coast. Overall, paleobotanical evidences suggest tropical to subtropical condition in the subcontinent. An analysis of the marine fauna shows close affinities between the species of northwestern region and those of the Tibet and northeastern regions. Indian fauna closely resembles the former from the Mediterranean Tethyan zone and from the Indo-Pacific region. The important foraminiferal species which allow recognition of the late Paleocene marine succession are Ranicotlia sinensis, Miscellanea miscella, Alveolina primavia, Discocyclina ranicotensis, Lochartia haimi. The paleontological evidence suggests that during Paleocene, the sea existed north of the Indian Shield from Afghanistan to Burma, and in the context of plate tectonics, it is suggested that the Indian Shield was still separated from the Asian platform. The sea allowed considerable migration of fauna between the Tethyan zone and Indo-Pacific region. The late Paleocene was also a time of tremendous volcanic activity in western and central India, Deccan Traps or some other volcanic flows. Another center was Burmese Andaman Nicobar Arc, situated approximately on the extension of 90 East Ridge. After Paleocene, let us talk about the early Eocene. Towards the end of the Ranikot time or Paleocene, another regression took place in most part of this region. In Sindh Baluchistan, coal deposits were formed during this time, along with Assam and West Bengal. In Burma also, this phase is represented by conglomerate. The end of the late Paleocene therefore marks a break in the marine sedimentation in major part of the Indian subcontinent. At the commencement of early Eocene, however, a widespread marine transgression occurred covering a fairly wide area. The evidence of this transgression is seen in the form of widespread distribution of shallow neritic facies represented by nummulitis. Sindh Baluchistan salt range, Himalaya, Tibet, Assam, Burma, Kutch, Rajasthan and also parts of southern India. The palynological data suggest a tropical to subtropical conditions. However, there is a definite decrease in the biotic diversity. It is interesting to note that in families of plants reported from Assam region are different from those of the western sector, and it is possible to differentiate the two kinds of flora during early Eocene times. Marked decrease shown by floral diversities is also reflected by all marine groups present in the deposits of this type. The decrease is most well marked in the diversity of megainvertebrates such as corals and mollusks. A sudden decline in the biotic diversity can be attributed to the number of causes, of which the most significant is a beginning of cooling trend. Climatic changes have been deduced on a relative basis on the hypothesis that organic diversity decreases from equator to the pole worlds, meaning that it is inversely proportional to the temperature. Other factors influencing marine diversity are reduction in salinity from the increased freshwater influx and increased supply of the detrital material from the Himalayan orogenic impulses. The early Eocene deposits are recognized on the basis of the following typical species of the larger foraminifera like Acelina granulosa, Acelina davisi, Nummulitis irregularis, Alveolina oblonga, Discocyclina species. A reasonably good development of nummulitic fauna is the distinctive feature of early Eocene deposits in the subcontinent, marked by first appearance of nummulitis. Early Eocene was also a time coal and lignite formation, as is evidenced by the occurrence of coal belt along the western coast from central and western Gujarat in northwestern to Palana in Rajasthan and further westwards in Pakistan also. Evidence is also known from a number of localities in Jammu and Kashmir. In Assam, the early Eocene coal belt is well developed in the southern part of the Shillong Plateau and in Mikir Hills. It is seen that the coal belt is proximal to the shoreline, almost parallel to the coastline of Sindhu-Barmer seas. No terrestrial mammals have been reported from Laki sediments, but their diversity and abundance have been noted in the mid-Eocene. The land connection with the adjacent countries of Asia had not been formed. In Paleocene, the Sindhu and Barmer seas had extended across northern part of the subcontinent, connecting western and eastern flanks. In the Eocene, they were cut off by the emergence of island arcs and other regions of higher relief in the area of southern Tibet and eastern Nepal. This became the nucleus of further orogenic activity. Thus, Sindhu seas extended into Tibet, but its connection into Assam at the end of early Eocene is doubtful. There was also a sharp decline in the intensity of volcanism in peninsula. It was mostly confined to the parts of central India. Then comes the mid to late Eocene. During mid-Eocene, the Tethyan Ocean transgressed across the northwestern part of Kutch, Camber region, Rajasthan, Sindh Baluchistan and Potwar. In the Himalaya, it was mainly confined to some areas of the lesser Himalayas. Very few of the plant families present in the Paleocene and early Eocene epochs are represented in the mid to late Eocene. However, those that are present indicate that the climate remained tropical to subtropical, though some temperature or temperate elements confined to the northeastern part are also present. The occurrence of families or dicot family Dipterocarpaceae in the deposits of this epoch in western, northern, southern and eastern parts of India is a distinguishing feature. Coal deposit diminished in thickness, extent and geographic distribution. Coal is found in Tura, Garo Hills, Meghalaya, near Bharuch, means Gujarat, southern Himachal Pradesh. In northern and western sectors, their occurrences are mainly on the basis of oil well data. Marine Kirthar deposits are present in Sindh, Balochistan and western and eastern parts, however, still have some common elements among foraminifera. Following forms help in the recognition of the mid to late Eocene deposits, like Nummulitis obtusus, Nummulitis beaumonti, Alveolina elliptica, Acyllina exponens, Acyllina papillata, Acyllina spira, Discocyclina dispensa, Dictyconoides cookie. An interesting aspect of Kirthar or mid-Eocene marine elements of the eastern part is the fauna that includes more Indo-Pacific forms than Tethyan ones. The marine Kirthars also include parts of the upper Eocene in several areas. For example, Surat, Bharuch and in Assam is characterized by Nummulitis fabiani or Peltispira species that is known from Assam is intermediate to the Tethyan facies of Pakistan and that of the Southeast Asia. In northern and eastern sectors, the Kirthar deposits show paucity of fossils. Reef-building corals also became rare in mid and upper Eocene. An extra peninsular region, except for minor outcrops in northwestern Pakistan, there is a transition from predominantly marine sedimentation to fluvial condition during the end of Laki. The presence of vertebrate in the mid and upper Eocene beds of northern India indicates that with the withdrawal of Nummulitic Sindhu Sea, the fluvial conditions prevail and supported a thriving fauna of artiodactyls, crocodiles, turtles and fishes. The change from marine to terrestrial sedimentation was brought about in the mid-Eocene and this has persisted till recent times. This suggests there was an upheaval in Himalayas during post-Laki or pre-Kirthar times, constituting an important landmark in the history of Himalayan orogeny. The vertebrates are significant in defining the time of impact of the Indian plate against the Asian plate and in determining the time when the migration of the terrestrial vertebrates from Central Asia occurred. During late Cretaceous and Paleocene, India was a highland subcontinent separated from Africa and Madagascar by the northwestern ridge from Australia by 90 East ridge from North Asian landmass by the Tethys. No mammals are known from India until the mid-Eocene. Migration of large terrestrial mammals such as tapirids, artiodactyls, hyraconidid, rhinoceratoid south of the suture zone could only have taken place with the establishment of the stable conditions for dispersal across the land ridge. This indicates that a part of the drifting Indian plate must have been collided with the Asian plate during mid-Eocene. This point is to be noted and is very important. That means the collision between Indian and Asian plate happens during the mid-Eocene time. Coming to the Oligocene, the widespread regression in the northern arc of the Indian subcontinent and the orogenic impulses at the close of the Kirthar times resulted in the significant change in the depositional history of the Oligocene sequence, though there is no essential difference of the Nari flora from the older ones. There is a decrease in diversity and abundance in certain families such as Polyploidaceae or ferns are widespread in distribution. Some temperate elements are found in burial sediments of Assam. Extensive coal deposits develop in the Oligocene during regressive phase of the sea. However, the sites of coal development have shifted eastwards from Assam, Bengal and Burma. In the western sector, there was a shallowing of the sea, whereas in the eastern sector at places northeast and central Burma, there are extensive fluvio-deltaic deposits. There is a marked difference in the taxonomic character of the Nari fauna. Of the marine fauna, the foraminifera of the western sector shows affinity to the West Asian form, with over one-third of their species common, while mollusks are closely allied to the European forms. The marine successions developed in the western sector are recognized on the basis of the following foraminifera, like Nummulitis intermedius, Nummulitis fischeli, Lepidocyclina, Eulepidina, Lepidocyclina, Nephrolepidina, Heterostagenia, Myogypsinoides complanata, Spiroclippus ranjini, and the northern sector. A huge thickness of the sediments extends from Kashmir to eastern Himachal Pradesh and conformably overlies the Eocene nummulitis. These beds are non-marine, plant-bearing, having Oligocene age consisting of sandstones and shales. They indicate that Sindhu and Bengal seas have receded from the northern and northeastern part of the subcontinent. Except some areas in the northwest, no younger marine rocks are reported from this region, and fluvial sedimentation has persisted into even recent times. Great thickness of deltaic deposits in northern Assam, what it suggests? It suggests that an extensive delta was forming by rivers carrying sediments from the rising Himalayas in the north. Swampy conditions existed up to the Gondwana. The sea retreated southwards to a position of approximately 25 degrees 20 minutes north in the Oligocene. Later, the delta gradually progressed southwards within the addition of more sediments during Neogene. Now, we will be discussing the geological events. During Palaeogene, having an interval of about 65 to 25 million years, the world moved from greenhouse state characterized by generally warm equator conditions to an icehouse state characterized by polar regions of the world that resulted in the considerable drop of temperature. Evolution of marine and terrestrial life can also be considered in this parlance. Marine group of animals, plants and single-celled organisms that survived the terminal Cretaceous mass extinction expanded during this period. Many benthic foraminifera, namely Nummulitis, Discocyclina, Alveolina, etc., sea urchins, bryozoa, crabs, gastropods, bivalves and teleost fishes appeared during Palaeogene and assumed prominent ecological conditions. The most significant feature is the re-emergence of reef-forming corals, which have been reduced to very subordinate position in reef-forming activity. As a result of the dominance of rudisted bivalves during late Cretaceous, the reality of early Palaeogene coral reefs also indicates that the recovery of the corals from mass extinction was not quick and is associated with establishment of the right tropical conditions to initiate carbonate deposition during the Eocene that supports corals and other related biota. Diatoms and dinoflagellates were not affected from the mass extinction anymore and continued their survival. The only survivor amongst the planktonic foraminifera, that is Globigerina, radiated against and evolved complex morphotypes. Irregular echinoids and sand dollars evolved into discrete shapes from the race Togosiamus. Other new corners from the ocean margins were penguins, whales and sharks. Some Paleocene mammals have been assigned to primates. The Upper Eocene in particular was marked by more modern variety of hoofed herbivores known as ungulates, that is, for example, living horses, camels, sheep, goats, pigs and rhinos. The earliest elephants appeared during Paleocene. During the Oligocene, the modernization of the mammals continued and many living groups expanded. An important aspect of mammalian evolution was the appearance of modern monkeys and apes like primates. As you would have seen that in the first part of the lecture, we could understand the Indian distribution of the Paleogene rocks, and then in the second part of the lecture, we have discussed the life during the Paleogene and the important events that happened on earth during that time. We will be discussing more about the life or paleobiology of the times, geological different time periods of the geological history of earth in the coming lectures. Till then, thank you very much.